Hello.
Douglas, what's
How are you
up?
doing?
How you doing?
Great.
Nice to meet
Great.
you.
Nice to meet you.
So, where are you located?
I am in Boston. Where are you?
Awesome. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I that's the one place I haven't been to. I really need to get up there.
Oh gosh, you really do. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We just an hour away from the mountains, less than that to the beach. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
the
great.
history. I felt really bad for you guys during that game 7 recently, man. I mean, that would have been so historic, but
Yeah,
believe me, before Mahomes came, Kansas City knows all about sports heartbreak in a way that's very, very epic,
indeed.
you
Indeed.
know. So,
Yeah.
but hey, thank you again. And I'm gonna before we peel back the layers of who you are in your life and where you arrived at where you're at, let's deal with the elephant in the room globally, which has been COVID for the last 3 years. We all had to go through this thing. How did
hmm
you survive the COVID time period? And how has it changed the way that you conduct business and do things now?
Well, I think the answer to that question is, well, let me start that again. I pivoted, as the kids like to say.
Yeah.
So up until the pandemic, I was helping mostly small to mid-sized organizations with their brand strategy. And then when the pandemic hit, all of them said, "Hey, we got to worry about payroll. We'll maybe talk to you later." And so I started working with a coach, and he rightfully told me that I needed to focus. I needed to pick a specific type of organization I could help. And we went through an exercise to figure that out. And it came down to, say, like a service as software technology focus, or social enterprises, not for profits, any organization that's mission driven. And, I thought, okay, this point in my life, I've got about maybe 10 more years left of working full time. What do I really want to do? And so I selected social enterprises and not for profits, and it's been really great. I really enjoyed the focus, the learn. I love the variety of it. I love the fact that I'm helping people do some really good stuff. I can't help children who have been sexually abused, but I can help those who do it better.
So let's talk about exactly what you do. I'm going to put you hypothetically in front of a bunch of third graders, okay?
Sure,
One of
sure,
the kids looks up at you, it's career day, and they're like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you
right.
answer them?
I help organizations figure out how they can talk about themselves in a way that gets people really excited and wants to join them in their work.
So let's go to when you were in the third grade or around that age. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
I think probably an actor.
Okay.
I want to be an actor. Yeah.
Well, there's probably a lot of this when you're helping people and getting to that place where you're helping them perform the best that you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And part of our process, we have a workshop that we go through, and before the pandemic, we did it in person more often than not. And it was a really great workshop, and people were moving around, and we had different things to do. And then the pandemic hit, and we had to shift those workshops to online. And the first one was a freaking train wreck. It just was terrible. But they were very patient. Everybody was patient then, right? And we've since perfected it, and now we've got to the place where when it's time to do the workshop again, we actually rather do it online because it gives people more of it helps give everybody a voice. So,
Yeah.
and it's more efficient. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of performance that goes into those kind of workshops. And when I try to get people excited about getting excited about the work, because the work we do, there's a lot of introspection that has to go on. And so I almost have to evangelize the process. Like, okay, this is really important process. And here's why. And so there is a little bit of showmanship, I guess, that goes into that.
Sure. So, of all of the major businesses out there that are in front of our eyes all the time, who do you think executes branding the best?
Hmm. Well, obviously Apple, but that's such a cliche answer, right?
Well,
There's somebody recently that I thought, wow, they really do a great job. Um, who was it? I can't. I'm blanking. I'm
we'll come
blanking, but
we'll come back around to it.
okay.
It may pop in. So as a branding expert, it seems like, yeah, put yourself out there, back up what you do, but there's always going to be a fatal flaw. There's going to be something that people aren't recognizing. And your business is looking at something in a very almost a mastery way, because this is what you do. What is one of the most common things that you run into that's easy to diagnose but hard to fix?
Absolutely. And this is something that affects every single one of us. We are so much in our heads. And especially when you are passionate about what you do, you focus on it and mostly nothing else. And we forget what's in here, but not out there. So what ends up happening is we try to explain things. It's like we're talking to somebody who's only seen season 2, episode 3 of a Netflix episode, and we're
Yeah.
talking at season 6,
Yeah.
and because we're just in our heads so much. And so that happens almost every single time we work with someone. And it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter what they do. It's just, and that's what makes us great at what we do, right? When we get passionate about what we do, we get into it. And so we forget that not everybody thinks that way and knows everything we know.
So, who's been kind of a role model or a hero for you in your life?
Oh gosh. Well, I worked for my first job out of college was working for a small magazine headed by alums of the college. It was called Bird Watchers Digest,
Oh,
and I not was not have not been, don't think I ever will be a bird watcher. But I sold advertising over the phone,
yeah.
and they were such an engaging couple, man and wife, that were just really yeah, I just felt like they had the right balance between focus and fun and not taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Take yourself seriously enough to have a successful business, but calm down. It's not, you're not saving lives here, right?
Yeah.
So, just keep things in perspective.
If you're gonna be looking for birds, you're not gonna be taking yourself too seriously. That's
That is absolutely true. That is
because
absolutely true.
what a whimsical thing to get involved with. So there was a movie there at one point. Steve Martin was in it. Dang it, Owen Wilson, and they went out and they were going to try to. There's a there's a society that goes out and tries to see all these birds, and it's this
Mm.
contest, and you go all over the world to do it. And it was really interesting. It was because I love looking at birds. It's something that I find myself doing. It's like it's my texting when I'm driving. But but anyway, so let me ask you this: in the realm of business, if you can meet anybody alive out there that's running something that you admire, who would you love to meet that would be mutually beneficial?
Hmm. Wow. Um, I mean, there's a lot of folks that I think I can help, but um, wow, you have some tough questions. Gosh, I don't know if I can answer those right off the top of my head. Who would I like to meet in the business world?
Or it could be anybody alive on the planet right now, even anybody that's just an interesting person that you would love to meet. Who would it be?
Oh, actually, I have the perfect answer for both those questions: business and Dolly Parton. Dolly
Right.
Parton is freaking brilliant.
Yeah, for
She
sure.
is such an astute business person. She's got it all figured out, and she's a lovely person, and I would love
Yeah.
to meet her.
Yeah. My wife has a good friend, and she named her dog Dolly Parton. So Dolly's been immortalized.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
um, so what is the fuel, the fire? What is it that gets you through your day? What is the motivator for you to do what you do?
Yeah, I think I referenced it earlier. I think it is being able to help people who are making a positive impact on the world. Our tagline is helping those, helping us all. And it really is. I feel like I'm able to indirectly help make things better. And that's, if you don't, no matter where you are, no matter what you do, whatever the situation is, you got to leave them better than you found them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do that. And so this is one way that I think I can help leave things better than I found it.
What has been one of your best, most memorable success stories that you've had with a client?
Oh, I remember this very distinctly. This was before the pandemic. I was working with a for-profit company, a small one. A guy had started his business like 20 years ago, and really never did anything with his messaging or his marketing or his branding, but he was starting to get more competition. And so he had to start thinking about it. And so we went in and did our whole exercise, and we did one of those workshops, and he did tax strategy and tax technology. And we're sort of sitting around they're sitting around the conference room, and he's got all of his principals, all of his VPs, and sitting around the table with him. We're at the whiteboard. A colleague of mine is at the whiteboard, and I'm kind of standing back watching and guiding the conversation. And I look over at him, and honest to God, Joe, I could see him, like, on his face, I could see him fall back in love with accounting. And I could see him remember why, and that's part of our process. Why do you care, and why should anybody else? And I could literally see him fall back in love with why he does what he does. And
That's cool.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. So if you were running your 20-year-old self tonight a dream, okay,
Yeah.
and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point, what would you tell that young version of you?
First of all, stop giving a fuck about what anybody else says. Hope I can say that.
Yeah, you
Or
can.
stop giving a fuck about what anyone thinks, and
Mhm.
just be you, do you. And you know what? Have some confidence, and don't be afraid to screw up. If you screw up, you screw up, and then move on.
What are you the proudest of that you've done so far in your life?
I'm just kind of proud of the whole path that I've been on. I grew up in a very, very small town in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, like 900 people. And I had a lot of help along the way, but I've literally been around the world multiple times. I've met people all over. Yeah, I've done so much. I came out of the closet when it was really hard to do that. And I'm just really proud overall the fact that I'm still here, for one thing.
Yeah,
And that I kind of didn't that I rejected the path that was set for me, right?
yeah,
So I think a lot of us, when we're born, we say, well, you're going to be on this path, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to go to school, and you're going to get married, you're going to have children, you're going to have a job that you'll keep for 40 years, you'll retire, then you die. And I guess I'm really proud that or not proud so much as I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to challenge that and to question the path that we are put on, well intentioned, when we're young. And so that's really given me a lot of um, I've gotten a lot out of that.
yeah. So traveling around the world, that has to have just widened so many ways of you seeing humanity, and that must be a wellspring of empathy for what's going on with everybody.
Yes, yes, and that's so, and that's, again, I'm going to pull back on my experience in living in a small town. There's a lot of people who've never met a Muslim. They have never met someone who immigrated from another country. They have never met, fill in the blank, a transgender person, and so yet they can only make decisions based on their information, the information they have. And so, I think I think that has, I mean, so what I'm saying is it's not surprising that some people have challenges with people who are different from they, because you're not exposed to it.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you this. If you could witness an event of human history that happened firsthand, what would you love to have seen?
I would have loved to have seen the Stonewall riots in the 60s. I would have loved to have seen the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah,
Um, I would have I would have loved to see the first flight, the Wright
yeah.
brothers. I would have loved to have seen that. Of course, they had no idea exactly the kind of impact they were going to have, but I would love to have been there.
So when you were growing up, what was the brand that made you think, man, I love that. I would love to someday get to a point where I could be a part of that process. What was the ad campaign or the company for you?
Well, I'm gonna answer that question a little bit differently. I'm gonna answer it for my father.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book, and this is the first chapter of the book. And my father was born in 1922, um, same town that we grew up in, and he very poor. The Great Depression hit them very hard, and he would tell the story of in this small town, a brand new shiny black Cadillac drove in. And he decided right then and there that someday he would own a Cadillac. And he and my mother, they were obsessed with that brand from the very beginning. And that was, of course, this was the 70s, and it fulfilled itself in the 70s and 80s, which the Cadillac brand had a little different cachet at the time. But that was something that really hit him, and he never let go of, nor did my mother. So I think that was a great example of a brand speaking to them. It gave them hope. It gave them focus. It gave them a way to feel good about what they were able to accomplish on their path. So I think that when I think of iconic brands that really change someone or really impact someone, that's the one I think of first.
You just made me remember and think, and I haven't thought about this. Maybe I've never even talked about it much, but my dad was a car salesman, and he'd come home in a Cadillac. He'd come home in new cars. It was one of the little thrills of his life. He could always just slap that dealer tag on the car and off he goes, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so everyone out there, there's all these pockets of people that have a perception of you, your family, your friends, clients, colleagues, but you're running the show. What's
Mm-hmm.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh boy. Wow. What's the copay for this? Because
See, I was getting ready to say this is the therapy portion of the interview. Man alive. Just go ahead and lay on the couch over there. I'll ask it again. Let's get into it.
I think, ironically, or maybe not ironically, unfortunately, it's kind of the same. Um, it's almost the same advice I would give my 20 something self. I mean, I no longer care what people think. That one I've moved off to the side.
Yeah.
But I think I really need to be ready to fail more often. I think I really need to be, I think I look at myself, I think, okay, don't be so, all right, let me answer the question a different way. I see, and this is going to sound so pompous and so condescending. So apologies. I see people who are pretty successful, and they have succeeded because they weren't bright enough to know that they couldn't, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They didn't think through all the things that could go wrong, and they just succeeded anyway. And I think I spend too much time thinking about what could go wrong and what could go right, and as a result, I think I hold myself back sometimes because I'm not risk averse, but I overthink everything, and so that I think would be the one thing that that's how I would describe that.
Did you
Answer that
see that?
question.
Did you see that movie Air with Ben Affleck and
Not
Matt Damon?
yet. It's on my
Okay.
list.
All right. So I'm not going to give anything away, but they had to take a risk and try to get Michael Jordan. And you're
Mm,
going through this, and we obviously know what happened. It's
right.
not giving anything
Right.
away. But the idea is that it's just that idea that you had there. They were cavaliered enough to not just stay in their lane. We're not going to
Right.
be a running shoe company. We're going to do something else. And they just pushed for something that was almost unreachable.
Right.
And probably did Wozniak and Jobs did the same thing in that garage.
Yep.
They were like, we're going to make something. We know IBM's the big one. So, I mean, yeah, you get people that are cavalier enough to believe in the fact
Right.
that there's an ignorance, there's a Forrest Gump notion that goes into it, and go
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's it. So,
Exactly.
hey, so if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, your book, anything pertaining to your world, where do they go?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Douglas Spencer, Boston. I'm pretty easy to find there. Our website, I run, so, the cobbler's children have no shoes, and the painter's house is always the one that needs a paint job. Our URL was ill-conceived. It's spencerbrenneman.com. But another way to get there is message.builders/ABC. And that stands for our methodology, which is ask, build, and connect. So message.builders/ABC is the easiest way to find us.
Right on. Douglas, this has been great, man. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. You too. I've enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.